and I'm live on Facebook and YouTube. Once again, it's your boy M.K.S here back in another video. I'll say musty, konnichiwa, and all that good stuff. As per usual, I was procrastinating today quite a lot, and I struggled to make a decision on what to cover. And at one point, I was going to cover my dreams for Asians to have a partnership to help Italian football and Celtic to be as world class as possible, to become world class and to win as many things as possible. I know Celtic's already doing well in Scotland, but maybe even to help Celtic do well in Europe and internationally, even to win a World Club Cup one day and things like that, which to me should be the biggest competition football-wise. I'd love to see, sorry for those who are not into football, but I'd love to see the World Club Cup carrying a prize of like $1 or $2 billion or even pounds, so it becomes the biggest, most prestigious club team competition. Again, sorry for those who are not into football. Basically, there's your national teams, and then your club teams. So they call it club versus country sometimes. So it's like your club teams are like Man United, or unfortunately Arsenal, which I don't really like, Rangers, which I definitely don't like, which is my least favourite team, or Celtic, which is one of my favourite teams, or Roma, which is my favourite club team. And then there's your national teams like Italy, England, Brazil, and whatnot. So just to clarify. But yeah, I was going to talk about the football stuff. But I struggled to make decisions on what to cover. But as it's a Wednesday, I thought I'd talk about how I'd love to award those who help with my writing, even though I can't write properly, but help me to have a miracle despite my punctuation and poor handwriting and that kind of thing. But I thought I'd try and explain this as best as I can. So I hope it makes as much sense as possible. I do get conscious and I talk about myself when I want to be talking about different things. But yeah, I would love to reward those who support my goals, and I love for God willing and Godspeed. Even though I'm not hugely religious, but maybe God to prove his or her goodness by doing so. But I hope to come to that. So as per usual, I thought I'd do it in list form. I had a few different ideas, and then suddenly I had a brainwave. I reached an epiphany, if that's the right word. And I thought I'd stick to this. So I thought I'd do it in list form. So these are pointers number 1 to 10 as per usual. I know sometimes I do like to mix it up, but normally I do things in list form. I know a while back I said I wasn't going to, but I just find it much easier to do it that way. So here goes. So number 1, I do worry whether people will understand what I say here, but I call it 1, 2, or for 1, or share. So 1 to 1. It could be called 1 to 1 or share. Trying to get it right. So I know I gave it a very complex title, but 1 to 1 or share for share, or 1 for 1 or share for share. But due to my patterns, I call it 1 to 1 or share for share. So the idea is, let's say, I've talked about this a while back, and I'm trying to focus mainly on Asian empowerment and that kind of thing. But let's say a mosque or a church or a munda or a gurdwara, or whatever other religious building, or a political group, political party, like Labour, Tories, or Conservatives, or whatever you call them, or whatever group or organisation, association, or whatnot, in business or whatnot, a council or whatever, locally, maybe where I live, perhaps, gave me a room to write in. I love to have my own creative rooms and spaces and whatnot, productive spaces where I can be productive and have a purpose to work on my goals. But yeah, if they gave me notebooks to write on, receipts, envelopes, notebooks, or whatever, to write on, each one they help me to write, and I have that space where no one distracts me, and I get to focus as much as possible. And I know I can share that information, those ideas or whatever information or whatever, with whoever I wish to, and only whoever I wish to. I would share. So if it was a Muslim individual group or mosque or whatever association or whatever organisation or whatever, and they gave me that paper or whatever, and they helped me to write it, and again share it only with those who I want to. So keep it as secretive as I like or whatever, and only share it with whichever individuals or groups I wish to do so. Whether that's for Italian football or for Asian empowerment, Celtic, or whatever it might be, I would share. I'd go to, I suppose, if they took me to this place, or if they helped me with the transport, or even like my local, I don't want to say where it is, but my local town or city or whatever, or county, somewhere there, I would maybe even get a bus and or however I can travel there, maybe even walk there or whatever, depending on how far it is, and I would give away Qurans or whatever. And same for Bibles with the church. So if a church gave me a room and said, now there's a bit of a dilemma on this, but I hope to cover that a bit later. But I hope that makes sense anyway. But if they gave me a room and they want me to write that, and again only share it with whoever I wish to, and not have to share it with whoever I don't want to, I would share, in that case, a Bible for each one. So if they help me with 10 pieces of work, I would share 10 pieces of work, 10 Bibles or whatever. If they help me with 100, I would share 100, and whatever number basically. But yeah, I'm going to move on to a bit behind schedule, but I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, please fire away. Sorry, I'll put my alarm on there, freak me out there, sorry about that. But yeah, if you have any questions or thoughts on that, please let me know in the comments. I hope that makes sense. Does it make sense? Do you have any questions on it? I won't question my sanity too much, but I won't blame you if you do. But moving on, hope I didn't forget anything, but I'm going to move on anyway to point number two, which is, so I say 1, 2, or for 1, or share for share, and that kind of thing. I also say line for line. So for instance, if it was a receipt or an envelope I got to write on with my ideas, whether that's a shopping list, a budget, or whatever it might be, or whatever ideas, it wouldn't be as much as a notebook, but each line I got to write, I would share a line in the same sort of way. So for instance, again, if it was an individual or organization, association, mosque, or whatever, help me with the same sort of thing. Next to the line I wrote, so let's say I had a blue notebook, or let's say black and blue, sorry, I can't remember, black and blue, obviously, for Interman, let's say, or black and red for AC Man, or whatever it might be. If I think of this for like my videos and support my videos as well, a bit like an influencer, I guess, trying to be an influencer perhaps. But at the moment, I'm thinking more of it for my writings, because it's a Wednesday, so I'm thinking my writings. I don't really do art. I'd love to get more into poetry, perhaps. My middle name is actually poet in English, from Hindi, hence M.K.S. and all that kind of thing. But the K bit means poet in English. But anyway, I think it's Hindi, and from Hindi, it's Kavit, which means poet in English, for those who don't know. Now you know, I guess. But yeah, hopefully I'm making sense. But yeah, so I would share. So let's say I had a notebook and it said, "My name is Michael Shenton, and here are my ideas for Italian football, or Interland specifically, or the Italian national team, the Azzurri, or Roma, or whatever, or again AC Milan, or whatever." I would write, let's say, a Quranic verse, or again, same sort of thing for the Bible for Christians. Like, so, if they could say, "We want you to share this specific verse, which is our favorite verse from the Bible," or whatever, and I would do the same sort of thing. Return a favor for each line. They enable me to write, help me to write, enable me to write, that kind of thing. So yeah, hope that makes sense. Again, if you have any questions or thoughts on that, please let me know. Hopefully, the idea is not too. Doesn't sound too mad, or probably is a bit mad, but not very mad, but hopefully it doesn't sound too narcissistic or whatever. I don't think it is. I think it's a fair deal. I hope to try and make a fair deal. I'd love to know if you have any tips on how I can promote that idea, how I can explain it better, or whatever, or what you think would be a fair deal. So I try and make the fairest deal possible. But that's line for line. So 1, 2, 4, 1, share was number 1, and line for line is the second one. Now moving on to number 3. Point number 3, like for like is another one. So I say 1, 2, for 1, or share for share, line for line, and like for like. So like for like would mean, let's say, so whatever people do, either for, against, for, to, against, or for me. And I'll say for twice, but I won't say it first and then last as well. So I hope would happen the same to them. So if people stole from me, or distracted me, or gave me an errand or chore or whatever, I dream, God willing and Godspeed, for God to do the same to them. I believe in God out of paranoia rather than hope, but that would give me a lot of hope. That would make me think of a positive thing about believing in God for like justice. So if someone gave me an errand or whatever, like a lot of people say, respect your elders. That's my least favorite saying. I think whoever says that deserves to have a cold or flu, in my opinion. So that's a bit harsh. But to me, it's just really. although I'd rather focus on rewards if I can. I think as a human being, I was thinking about this earlier, and I thought it a few times, we probably focus more on the punishments than rewards. Again, I don't know what you think about that. But I try and be as honest as possible in these videos, even including about my madness, which is not very hard. Not very easy, rather. It is very hard to discuss. My madness probably comes across in these videos, but sometimes I say things I think I can't believe I said that. But yeah, like for like would be whatever people do, I'll say for, to, against, or again for me, would happen exactly. So if they stole from me, let me stole from it. They give to me. I wish that God would find a way for them to be given to, if not in this life, hopefully in heaven, which I'd love for everyone to get to, and it to be worth it for everyone. I'd love for everyone to have a good life, a life worth living, and that kind of thing. But I do believe in the sort of justice as well. I think if someone calls me and distracts me, I think they should be worse off than if they don't. If they I often say to my mum, like, why don't you give me a list like this on a post-it note, or send me a text or whatever, especially on my other phone, my newer phone or whatever, something like that. So even if you've got chores or errands, but rather than distracting me. But also, I think again, each time someone gives me an errand, I wish God would give them an errand in heaven. Like, so yeah, whether they're busy or enjoying themselves or not, or whatever, and they might think, oh, great, giving Michael an errand. And I think that should be for everyone. Like I say, anyone who, if people, I wonder if parents or uncles or aunts of anyone, even if I did it myself, it would be only fair. If people are older, I'm older myself, so you can tell I'm not being biased in that regard. Because if I was, I'd probably, like I say, to people who are younger than me, I don't know if they'd listen to me anyway, but I'm the oldest of all my siblings. So if I used age discrimination, although I'm unemployed, to be honest, if I used age discrimination and said I'm older than you, then I can get my siblings doing the work, but I won't really want to do that. I feel very hypocritical, which I can be, I guess, sometimes. Like saying, why do women have to be gold diggers when I'm one myself? Anyway, although I'd make them give to charity rather than keep it, so it's a bit different. Anyway, talk more about that another time maybe. But I decided to give a different title for the Facebook version and the YouTube version, which I normally do. It'd probably be easier if I stuck to the same title, but sometimes I like to mix it up a bit. So this one, I said who deserves rewards, who's deserving of rewards, and for the other, for YouTube, sorry, for Facebook, which I'm focusing on the Facebook screen, hence why I said this one. I said who is deserving of rewards, and on YouTube I put who are my heroes, which I don't really know who my heroes are. I guess whoever supports my plans the most, which I hope to come to, jumping ahead of myself. But yeah, I say like for like basically would be literally whatever people do to me, I dream would happen to them either on this life or in heaven, or preferably both, either in this life or the next life, or preferably both. And hopefully they'll be like, oh yeah, I regret distracting Michael, I regret getting in Michael's way or giving him an errand, because now I have one to do myself, so that'd be pretty cool, and I hope that happens. But yeah, sometimes most of the time my faith is a bit weak, with unanswered prayers or whatever. But anyway, moving on to number 4, whoever gives me peace and quiet. I'd say that I guess I'm focusing more on the writing. I'm talking about writing on paper, but I suppose the same sort of, I'd love to make similar deals, if not the same, for like my Facebook and YouTube videos, or video content creation generally, and typing as well, either one of those, to pay it back. I was thinking my biggest prayer would probably be what I talked about, like for like, so whatever people do to me happens pretty much the same to them, maybe slightly better, because I like to be nice and play the moral high ground. But having said that, probably my biggest prayer, if I think about it, would be not to be distracted in the first place. I think that's the end goal, really. So yeah, I'd love to have peace and quiet, and reward those who give me peace and quiet as much as possible. I'd say I'd love to have my own productive / creative rooms and spaces, places, and that kind of thing, which I hope to come to a bit later. Again, going a bit ahead of myself, but moving on to number 5. Sorry if I struggle to get to the point. As usual, I guess my heroes, when I think about who my heroes are and who I'd love to reward, I guess as well, would be, I don't know if God could be a hero, because I think the definition of hero is someone who has to be brave, and I guess if God doesn't have to be brave, then I guess, I don't know if God would be a hero, maybe something more, yes, I don't know what you believe in. But yeah, I suppose whoever benefits Italian football, Celtic, libertarianism, former colonies, like Asian nations, let's say, at the moment, stroke or tackling poverty, alleviating suffering, and spreading peace, love, joy, hope, and happiness. I guess those would be my heroes. Whoever does that the most. And again, I'd love to pay it forward. I'd love to reward, really, I suppose it's a better way of putting it, those who help with that kind of thing. Whether that's through my writings, videos, content creation, YouTube and Facebook videos and whatnot, answering or typings or whatever it might be, that helps with those end goals. I was thinking, like, say, if my brother or anyone else said, like, I help you with cleaning or tidying, I'm a bit messy, I'm a bit, as I call it, a monkey pup. Don't know if that word sounds right, or that term sounds right, but I think if they did like cleaning or tidying up to make sure I didn't have to, which meant I could spend more time on my writings and videos, then I'd want to reward it. Again, there are probably other things I wish to reward, but like those who feed me, those who give me shelter, and all that kind of stuff or whatever. But I'm focusing more on the writing because it's a Wednesday. But also because it's the 27th, I'm thinking rewarded as well. But again, focusing more on the writings and the works and that kind of thing, my works and plans. But yeah, I'd love to reward each of those things, like either of those things. So I think, like, for instance, for each pound that let's say a business wanted me to promote their business, for each pound they gave towards it, Town for or Celtic, or those other goals I've got, like libertarianism or whatever, I would, I guess other political parties probably wouldn't want to help libertarianism, but I would promote their business or religious group or whatever it might be. I guess it's a bit of a dilemma when it comes to a different political group, because obviously they wouldn't want to help libertarianism, but they could help one of my other causes and my goals as part of those. Again, hope that will make sense. If you have any questions, please fire away. Hopefully it won't be too harsh. I welcome your questions, comments, queries, or whatever, including about my sanity. But moving on, number 6, as I say, those who support my works and that kind of thing, I'd love to reward them, and they're my heroes. Number 7, including on benefiting Celtic. One dilemma I've got, just remember there's something else I was going to say in point number 5, but I'll probably say in point 9. So I'm thinking, like, the saying, oh, well, it's not a saying, but when people say 9 to 5, I was thinking dyslexics love to work 5 to 9. It's a little play on like how dyslexics do things differently, or even backwards or whatever. That, I know I didn't meant to be a man, to be fair. But yeah, point number 7, those who benefit Celtic, I'll say, I'm not repeating what I said in point number 5, but also those who help me to not have to do chores or whatever, help me to work smart instead of hard and do the things I want, enjoy rather than not, which I suppose is what working smart instead of hard is to me. I was thinking of the saying 6s and 7s, which we have here in Britain. I think it's a Cockney, i.e. London saying or whatever, but certain part of London, for those outside of the UK. Cockney rhyming slang, something like that, where they say strange things, even by my standards. I know I'm a bit weird myself, but what's the difference between weird and strange? Anyway, but they say at 6s and 7s, and I was thinking a dilemma that I have is, like, I love to be able to write when and wherever I have permission, but then I don't want to get in people's way, and also I guess I do want to look after nature, and I do feel bad about trees being felled, trees being shot down, so there's a bit of a dilemma. I'm hoping to find a happy compromise. As I say, like, for instance, I was thinking, let's say a mosque say, we want you to share 1,000 Qurans or whatever, then I'll say, okay, if you help me with 1,000 different plans, then I'll do that. Same with the Bible, same with any other religion. I'd love for God to prove their existence in a positive way. Actually, I jumped over something. I was going to say that point number 5, but then I was going to say point number 9. But anywho, moving on. Yeah, so that's a bit of a dilemma. But moving on, point number 8. As I say, I'd love for God to prove themselves in positive and good ways. Point number 8. Because I think 8, I guess, well, no, 8 rhymes with hate, but I turn it from hate to love. So I think also from negative to positive, ideally. Although I'm quite a pessimist and a negative person, but I'd love to be an optimist and a positive person. But yeah, I was thinking, what if God proved their existence in good ways? Like, for instance, instead of saying, I'd love to, for a long time I was a Christian because, I guess based on fear and that kind of thing, but I don't really want to believe in a religion because of fear. I want to believe in it because of positivity, positive things. So like I was thinking, instead of like threats like you'll go to hell or something bad will happen to you generally because you don't believe in a religion, I think it'd be good if God would say, I'm going to help you with your goals and causes more than any other religion. Although I suppose I'm expressing my ideas here as usual, as I do on Facebook and YouTube and whatnot. But I imagine someone saying, well, actually, if God helped you with your writing, what if that got in the way of other people and chopped trees down or whatever? Wouldn't that be unfair on them? So you could say it wouldn't necessarily be good just because it helps you. Like, don't be too selfish with your own. Like, why should God prove their existence, or why should there's a true God, the true religion, if there is one, if you believe such? Why should they help with your goals more than anyone else's? And what if it gets in the way of other people? So I can imagine them saying like that wouldn't be as good or as nice as you think. But I'd love to know what you think about that. Whether you think that whether you agree or not. So whether you think like actually it would be harsh for God to help your goals if they get in the way of other people. Like, why should God help you out of anyone? I guess, which I think is a fair question. But helping someone with terrible punctuation and who has a bit scruffy hand. It doesn't look scruffy to me, but other people tell me it's scruffy. And I guess my own punctuation, when I read it back, I'm like, oh, why did I do it that way? But yeah, I guess that I still think it's better than like threats. I don't want to believe in God because of threats. Like, God will do something terrible if I don't believe in God or some religion or whatever. So I think like, why doesn't God, who's described as like merciful in Islam and loving in Christianity, like, why don't they prove their existence by doing good things? In my opinion, like my works. Yeah, I thought I'd mention that because I think I often think like that, like negatives versus positives, pros versus cons. I would say the best for last. But yeah, that kind of thing. Love versus hate or whatever, hate versus love. Also, I think of like creative, so I'd love to have, I say, my own creative rooms. Number 9, I'd love to have my own productive rooms. Ideally, I'd say in the opposite order. I guess life's not ideal. I guess the world's not an ideal place or a perfect place. I often wonder if there's anything in the world that's perfect. But I was thinking like, I have to think a perfect justice, if there is such a thing, and I don't like the word perfect, so I don't know if anything's perfect, but part of me does think maybe it is a perfect justice. Like, what you give, you get back. So if you hurt other people, you feel pain, which is great, you get it back to you. If you help other people, you get it back. And that to me feels like it's a perfect justice system. I feel karma would be pretty much the perfect justice system. Yeah, I'd love to have my own productive room somewhere where I know, because I have this problem, I guess, as a hoarder, I guess. Probably other hoarders don't have the same problem, but let's say I write something, I want to know that that information I'm writing is going to be used somewhere, whether that's a picture has been taken of it and it's recorded somewhere, or whether it's a video recorded of it, or whether I use it for my video and I know I've made use of it. I want to be able to make use of things I write, videos I make, and whatever. So I want to make sure things are recorded properly. But yeah, I seem to be more personal about that than anyone else. So if I had my own productive rooms, creative rooms, spaces, or whatever, places and spaces for paperworks and writing and whatnot, and so on, making videos and that kind of thing. Again, I'm focusing more on the writing side because it's Wednesday. Then I feel that it would be, I'd say, productive rooms. The reason why I call them productive is because I feel like it's something I could go there and feel, yeah, I want to work on this stuff, and it's something I want to work on. I say smart and so forward. And I say, I think, what if God proved their existence in a positive way? Like, what if the true religion and true God, if there is one, supported my works, my writings, and things like that, and typings, perhaps, but especially writings, more than any other, or maybe equally so. I mean, my writings and my typings equally so. Sorry. But yeah, creative expressions and that kind of thing. But yeah, productive, because it would be productive, but and helping me to get to the point. But yeah, something to work on, and something that I could work on that I actually enjoy. So hence I call it smart rather than hard, and I'd rather work smart than hard, easy than hard, being a lazy bugger. But yeah, and people might read my writing and say, why do you like writing? Because you can't write properly. Normally I prefer things that I'm good at, but I do have a lot of ideas and thoughts, as you can probably tell. And number 10, I guess heroes are those who help young people. as well and disadvantage people. I'd love to help the poorest 10% of people in all possible countries. I'd love to help the youth of the world. And I know this is a bit harsh, I'll say, but before I wrap up, I'll say that, like I say, anyone who says, excuse me, I'm older than you, or millions say I'm older than you, or respect your elders, or whatever, or do what I say and makes you do their day work, I think they deserve to have a cold or a flu, even. And I think God should give people errands. And if you think about it, if you got to heaven and you said, I say you said to your son or daughter, or sons or daughters, or whatever, or nieces or nephews, bring me coffee or whatever, I think God would be justified to ask you to do the same thing. It might stop you from enjoying yourself at that time and distract you, just like you do to younger people, because it's like you could say, I'm older than you, so you should do what I say, but then God might say, I'm older than you, so you should do what I say. I hope that will make sense as much as possible, and I'm out, and peace and love.